10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drop!
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the show that covers everything from comics, movies, and other cool stuff. This is To Be Continued With. I'm Mike, your host, and today we're breaking down the second episode of the Disney Marvel series, WandaVision. It's titled Don't Touch That Dial, and we're going to jump right in. The show starts with Wanda and Vision in bed. Separate ones, because back in those days, it was a big no-no to see adults in the same bed on TV. Now, a loud explosion is heard in the background while Wanda is playing with the lights by using her magic to turn them on and off. Vision is woken up and makes his way to the window to see what's happening. He then gets scared by another explosion and he jumps back into his bed and dives right under the covers. At this point, Wanda takes a dig at him and he tells her that the neighbors have been talking about some unsavory characters lurking around town. Another explosion comes into play, cuts the conversation between them real short, which is kind of funny since they were about to talk about them actually being the strangers that everyone is talking about. Now, while this is happening, Wanda brings the beds together magically and Vision tells Wanda to hit the lights and they both jump under the covers. Cue the Barry White music and let's get into our intro. For this episode, it's based on the show Bewitched and has some elements of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror sprinkled in, which actually provides us with the first Easter egg of the show. With Mephisto, AIM, and others at the top of the list of suspects that are behind the curtain of what's going on, we actually see the helmet of a Marvel villain who has ties to both Wanda, Vision, and the Avengers in general. The Grim Reaper's helmet can actually be seen in between the floors of the house when Vision is phasing through the house. We actually meet the rest of the cast as we make our way through town in this animated clip, only to end up on the couch with Wanda and Vision and the rest of the supporting cast in the background. By this point in the series, we all know that this show is putting our main characters through various sitcom scenarios while building up to a mystery as to how they ended up here after the fallout from Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. The premise this time around is that our main characters are interacting with other neighbors from town. Wanda's with the wives at the planning committee meeting, and Vision is at the neighborhood watch meeting being held at the town library with all the husbands. The hook for die-hard comic book fans are all the Easter eggs that can be found throughout the show, just like the Grim Reaper's helmet in the animated intro. They have a toy helicopter with the sword logo that is found in the bushes, along with the not-so-subtle hints from Mephisto. Now, in case you don't know who that is, that's the character that plays the role of the devil in Marvel Comics. This all adds up to the fan fiction ideas that could be thought up of, but for casual fans, I could see many questioning what the hype is all about because the first episode was a simple intro with not too much of expanding on what's going on, but with episode 2, we get more hints, clues, and revelations as to what's happening now. We get to meet and know more of the supporting cast. We also get our first mystery because someone is trying to reach our heroes while at the same time giving us a sense that something is manipulating these events. This is going to be a series that unfolds and is going to keep you guessing due to the rich history of Marvel Comics and, more importantly, the way this show and others that are coming up will lead into what's going to happen on the big screens for the future of the MCU. Now, there's a lot more to take in than the last episode because we get insight as to how our characters are trying to keep their powers and abilities under wraps from everyone else while simply getting by. We cue the laugh track again because Vision is at the neighborhood watch meeting and he gets offered a piece of gum from one of the guys named Herb. It gets lodged inside of him, getting intertwined with his internal system, and it makes him appear as if he were drunk. The gum that's being offered is a piece of Big Red, which many are taking as another reference to Mephisto. And as the saying goes, the show must go on, and it does. We meet up with Wanda in a talent show where she is waiting for Vision to show up since they are putting together a magic act. Now, all the obvious slip-ups and hilarity of an old-school sitcom comes into play, and Wanda uses her magic to get them through everything while still keeping the town folks in the dark as to what they can really do. Wanda gets the gum out of Vision's system and gets him back to normal, which leads to the end of the show where all of a sudden, Wanda's pregnant. And that explosion from the beginning, we hear it again. This time, Wanda and Vision go outside to check it out, and we see a man climb out from under the sewers dressed in a beehive suit with the sword logo on it. It creeps Wanda out, that she says no. And suddenly, the footage we're watching is being rewound to the point where they were before, in the house, happy to find out that she was pregnant. Fucking crazy. The scene continues as before, but this time without the noise. They both continue by seeming happy about this really happening, and all of a sudden, Vision's face begins to gain color, and then the house ends up magically being colorized until everything is vibrant. The show ends, and before we get into the credits, we hear a voice asking, "Wanda, who's doing this to you?" I didn't want to do a full breakdown since this is a show that you should really be watching. It's a mystery wrapped up in a paint-by-numbers sitcom world, blending elements of suspense, superheroes, and a bunch of other crazy shit. Besides the Easter eggs that we're left with, we have questions about the toy copter and the blood that was on Dottie's hands after she broke the glass with it. Because those two things are the only things that appear in full Technicolor. Now there was another commercial thrown in the mix, this time for a Strucker watch, complete with the Hydra logo smack in the middle. For those that don't know, Wanda and her twin brother Pietro received their powers from Baron Strucker. He was a Hydra leader that was defeated in Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, one of the main things that stand out is how weird the townfolk are acting. At the committee meeting with the ladies, they all repeat the phrase, "for the children," when talking about the goal for the talent show. And then they say it again, "for the children," during the show. What's also weird is the fact that there are no fucking children throughout town. Everyone's dropping these lines as some sort of subliminal message, specifically throwing them around towards Wanda. Now, the obvious what the moment is the beekeeper guy at the end. But since it's still too early to know what's really going on, we'll leave it at that. Listen, I'll say this. The remarks made about the devil being in the details is something to keep an eye out for. And I welcome the newest addition to the cast, Geraldine. She's acting super nice and somewhat staying in a lane. For those that don't know, or for the Marvel geeks, time out. I'll explain it to the casual fans. She's actually a character named Monica Rambeau. She's a little girl from Captain Marvel, all grown up now. We also know she's an agent of S.W.O.R.D., but still have no clue as to why she's there or what she's doing. She has a great history in the comic books. She's actually the only black female to lead the Avengers in comic history. Now, with these two episodes being released on the same day, it was a good way to sync avid fans and to pique interest for casual ones. But it will need to pick up speed since there are only a limited amount of episodes in this series. Luckily, we know that we're moving up in TV history since we'll be seeing things in color now. And the fact that Wanda is already showing a baby bump is a great way to keep us guessing what's going to happen next. Luckily, episode 3 is already out. I'll be covering that one tomorrow, and that will bring us up to speed with all the episodes. I also want to take a quick moment to say thanks to everyone who's taken the time out of their schedule to listen to my crazy thoughts over the fat beats provided by the one, the only, Bobcat the Legend. Here's his YouTube channel. Here's his Spotify. Other than that, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share this shit like the motherfucking cold. I'm out.